is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to Dope Interviews, brought to you by 19 Media Group. I'm your host, Warren Shaw, and I'm super excited to talk to today's guest. But as always, you got to rate, review, subscribe to anything 19 Media, and we will appreciate that 100%. Now that is out of the way, listen, I have a very long resume I need to read before we get to today's guest. She is a heavy hitter, and she is in the virtual house today. Give me a moment to go through all of this. She is currently the VP. I got to read it now. I can't even front. There's so much going on. I have to read this joint. She's currently the VP of Digital Content and Audience Engagement at SiriusXM/Pandora. She is the Adweek Social Media Council co-chair. She's on the LA Regional Advisory Board for America on Tech. Formerly spent time at notable companies like Hulu, BET, SNY, NBC Universal. It's my friend, my new homie, Tatiana Holifield. Tatiana, what's good?
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me here. You made me sound a lot better than what I am, so thanks.
Madness, because your LinkedIn and your IG, everything, like you be flossing, you know what I mean, and not in a negative or a way like that where it's braggadocious. This is real life. So take those lessons. And you came in on here all humble with the hey, nah, come on. You're the real deal. You're the real deal, and that's why we've been trying to do this for a long time. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be alive, and I'm excited for the opportunity to continue to give back. And I think that's just what propels me every day. I am the product of a single mother. And so anytime that I can, have a seat at the table and then give that seat back to other people, I'm all for it. So that's probably why I stay so busy all the time.
I hear that. And, shouts to the single moms out there. Same thing, product of a single mom as well, too, on my end. So let's tap into that originally. Again, for organically here, we don't just kind of jump to the middle or to the end. You know what I mean? We got to start at the origin story. So Tatiana, if you wouldn't mind just sharing your origin story, where you're from originally, what kind of brought you up, your interests and things like that coming in.
So I'm originally from Chicago. Well, actually, I was born in Maryland. My father was in the military, but raised in Chicago. So I claim Chicago, Chi-Town all day. And went to school at Columbia College Chicago, which is a huge arts, entertainment, media management school. And back in that time, I really wanted to be on television. Specifically, I wanted to own a television station.
Okay.
I wanted to be Oprah. You could not tell me anything otherwise. And so that's just, kind of where my interest arose from, is just seeing Oprah. And actually, she got her roots started in Chicago.
She did.
The person who gave her first break is a woman by the name of Emily Barr, who was the general manager of ABC 7 Chicago, and became my mentor also. So I feel like, I'm 6 degrees of separation from Oprah at some point in time, but that's just kind of where I started from. And then as I graduated from college and continued to move on, I actually had a crazy incident that happened, a tragic incident that happened throughout my career, in which my boyfriend at the time was working at a nightclub. Some people may have heard of the E2 nightclub tragedy that happened in Chicago. And I was on the phone with him. It was late one night, and there was a fight or something that broke out in the club. And the security maced an individual, which created a stampede. From that stampede, there was only one exit, stairs going down, and everyone just, plowed down those stairs, and 11 people died, or was it 8 or 11 people died? And I was on the phone with him at the time while he's security, and he's telling me what's happening in this nightclub. And I turned on the news at that time, and they were saying all type of rumors and stories that were absolutely not true. And I know, because I was on the phone with him, and, it was in that moment that I realized I wanted to report what was really happening in the community. and I wanted it to be honest and open and all of that. And so I say all this story to say fast forward. I always thought that my, purpose was to like tell these stories in life and be a Oprah, be a storyteller, all of that. But I'm not an in front of the camera person like that. I'm actually a behind the scenes person in the sense that I'm now doing that. I'm telling those stories.
Yeah.
I have been fortunate enough to have a seat running social media for some of the biggest brands in the world,
Talk to them. Yeah.
where I'm able to report out what's happening in the social media landscape, whether it's entertainment or music or news or sports. And I am able to control what is posted, making sure that it's factual or not factual or whatever the case may be. And it's entertaining more than anything for the brands that I've worked for. And so I say all that to say, full story, I'm just a girl from Chicago out here trying to make it, trying to tell stories that are accurate and for the culture.
Nah, I mean, I think that's, amazing. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's not an easy thing to, but again, it's given you purpose and kind of help you kind of hone where you wanted to be and kind of things you go. And a lot of things, I mean, for everybody, where we are or even end up is not where we originally intended or started or where we thought we would be. And I think, whatever, if you believe in a higher power, that's just the way it's supposed to be. Like you end up where you're supposed to end up in a lot of situations. So, while that's a tragic situation, it allowed you to kind of hone your skills a little bit. When did you, if you will, like first kind of discover social media? Like what was the first social media platform that you were ever on?
Oh, that's a good question. It probably was MySpace,
Okay.
maybe. But in terms of when I discovered social media as a career was right around 2011.
Okay.
I actually had been working in marketing. I was working for SNY at the time and then for NBC Universal. And I realized that marketing jobs were all starting to request that you have some degree of social media experience. And at that time, I wanted a new job. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to find a job if I don't get some type of social media experience. And so I realized early on that I needed that expertise. So I went back to school. I got my MBA. I started volunteering with the Black Employee Network at NBC Universal and used all of that to leverage an opportunity where I then was able to parlay that into a role working in social media. And so that story for me is very much indicative of how I view life in terms of finding what's the next opportunity before it pops, and then being prepared to insert yourself there. And so I was able to see early on that social media was going to be a big piece of marketing. And I learned the skills necessary to then be a unicorn in this space where I'm a Black young female working in social media. And now I'm already thinking about, okay, what's the next thing?
Dang.
You know what I mean? Like, is it AI? Is it, smart technology, whatever? But I say that to give that back to young people, like find where the voice and the opportunities to capitalize on something. You never know how you can like create a whole path for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? And I think, as you're telling that story, it reminds me of a friend of mine too. He worked in the media. He worked for like a newspaper business. And what it boiled down to, some years ago now, he saw that the old days of the Sunday newspaper, coming to your doorstep and whatever. He was like, yo, when he started to understand he needed to learn how to online edit and what it meant to put those things and and the website of it together. And, he's kind of future-proofed himself a little bit in a lot of ways now. He's a big-time editor now at another national media company. And I was like, wow, he saw the vision there. So similar to you, you have to understand and not be resistant to the change, if you will, or in the wave that might be coming. And, I'm guilty of that sometimes. I'm like, when I see a new social media platform, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
not this again. But similarly to kind of what you just alluded to, I wanted to ask you, do you remember your first ever social media campaign and kind of like what was it about?
Oh, I don't recall the exact campaign. However, the first forte of me really being able to jump in and running and executing a social, I was working for NBC Universal at the time. And if you all probably know the Maury Povich show. Everybody knows Maury and You Are Not the Father videos. Everybody tunes in to see if they're the father or they're not the father, and then them running down that long hallway. So Paul Fallhaber is the executive producer, and he actually had started Maury's Facebook page himself as an executive producer. But he was running it and putting the videos on there, but he didn't really like manage it or maintain it or know like how to put a strategy together. And so I actually asked him after I went to school and after I started learning, hey, can I help you? And we grew that page to over 1 million followers in less than a year just by putting up You Are Not the Father videos and leaning into that strategy.
That
And
was you, huh?
so, yeah, that's probably my most memorable. And then, second, if I can really quickly give you another story, my second most memorable is when I was working at BET Networks. You all probably remember Prince had just passed away, and the Billboard Music Awards were coming up, and Madonna was supposed to do a tribute to Prince at that time. Well, 2 weeks after Madonna's tribute was going to be the BET Awards. And everyone who was a part of the culture was like, forget Madonna's tribute. We waiting for the BET Awards where we know BET is going to do Prince, right. And Stephen Hill, the head of BET at the time, came to my boss and I and said, listen, we got to be ready on social. We got to be ready with a clap back so that if her performance is whack, we jump in and insert ourselves. And if her performance is not whack, we can still be a part of the conversation. Right. And so that was my first opportunity to ever do a major clapback. I worked with our editor, Ed, and he put together this amazing little video. And the minute, Madonna performed, we posted it and we were like, we see you, but BET got you. And literally that tweet, that post ended up the next morning on CNN and had over a billion views all over it. Like it was the post heard around the world, the clapback heard around the world. And so that's probably my all-time favorite campaign.
Man, those are two amazing stories. And I mean, you could live off of that for, I mean, like, that's crazy. I mean, especially when you think like, even for me, I'm kind of dating myself, if you will, too, but like growing up in the culture and things of that nature, and not even the Prince thing, but even like the Maury and like how many people would run around. I'm not, or transitioning and I'm not the whatever, you know what I mean? And then running around, kind of crazy, and almost kind of in tribute too. And then obviously with that BET thing, because it's a real situation, like what we do with Madonna. But anyway, we won't talk about that. we'll keep it pushing. What's your favorite form of social media now? Then there's so many things out there, and there was a point where I thought Snapchat would never die. Snapchat is kind of like I don't even know if it's really still in use, and now TikTok is the wave. But for you, kind of, what do you think is the most important, or what's your favorite rather?
So to be honest, my favorite is LinkedIn. Which people don't, that's not their first go-to when they say social media. They think of LinkedIn just for networking and stuff like that, but it is a social media platform. And so maybe that's just my business mindset, but my number one favorite is LinkedIn. And then secondly, I'm still an Instagram girl. I know TikTok is all the rave, but Reels to me is I love Reels. And so anytime I can make a reel and like make a fun little highlighter clip or do something funny is what I love.
That's a good vibe right there. So, again, sharing a personal story. I think I told my wife the other day, and I was like, I get more excited about a new LinkedIn connection than I like on IG or something on Twitter as well too. It's like, hey, and that's again just probably indicative of where I'm at in life as well too. You know what I mean? And trying to build and connect with others out there. I want to transition a little bit because you touched on some alignment, if you will, to Oprah, or if you will, and I kind of want to ask you in this aspect. in all the industries, all the companies that you've been around and things like that. And I think you might have mentioned that you've had a chance to maybe eat Oprah as well too. Have you ever been starstruck? Like, who's been the person you're like, oh like when you were kind of in their presence, his or her presence, like what the situation was?
Oh, let's see. That's a really good question. I have to give it to the queen, Beyonce.
Okay.
I think this was the 2019 BET Awards, where she headlined, and my team actually had the opportunity to go behind her as she made her entrance onto the stage with a GoPro camera. And so we literally like trailed her entrance with a GoPro, and we were going live with that viewpoint while she came out on stage. So it was a really cool thing. And just for me personally, being a part of the Hive, seeing her in person was huge. And then just the other person who I wouldn't say I'm starstruck, but he just is just the most amazing person, celebrity, is Jerry Springer.
Word.
I have a funny story. Jerry Springer, obviously working on all the daytime talk shows, is one of the most nicest people in the world. And we were going to a festival one day, and it was early morning, and he was like, you know what? It was just him and I in the limo because I was like capturing content for him. And he's like, I need to stop at Starbucks. Let's stop at Starbucks. So the limo pulls up to Starbucks. He's like, Tatiana, what can I get for you? I'm like, me? You're getting me coffee? I should be getting you coffee. But like, that's how awesome of a human he is. And so anytime I see Jerry, I'm still a little starstruck because he's Jerry.
That's what's up. I mean, that's an amazing story. See, and this is why you're good at your job. You're an amazing storyteller. I think I've captured it, and I think our fans and listeners tuning into the Dope Interviews are going to be really excited by that. One more before we kind of get to break here. I kind of want, conversely, with that same aspect. So you're working behind the scenes now, right? Like that's the role. And you at one point, you maybe even wanted to be in front of the camera. But talking about being starstruck or talking about inspiring, like people do enough research now. People, some ways, are going to kind of maybe know who you are. Have you, in essence, ever starstruck somebody, or how are you inspiring? Especially because I feel like it's time. Like it's the time of the Black female to be out here and getting their just desserts, if you will. I'm sure you've been found by many, so to speak, and asking how they can get on and be the next you. Kind of how do you handle that situation in general?
First of all, the fact that you just said be the next me is still not something I'm comfortable or have even accepted yet at this point. But yeah, I've had this more and more starting to come up. People call me a LinkedIn influencer or a LinkedIn celebrity. Or actually, when I was working in Indiana for the Indiana Pacers, I had one young lady come up to me at a conference, and she was like shaking and just like in awe. And she was like, oh my God, I follow you. And that was the first time somebody had ever said they follow me on social media. And I was like, who, me? Like, are you serious? You follow me? Okay. And she was just like in awe and just like, but what I loved about that moment was that she was a young brown girl like me.
Yeah.
And so that was like the highlight. And even now, even this past week, I was at the #sports conference. The conference was over. I got in the elevator and someone was like, oh, you were speaking at that conference. And it was just like, people are noticing me now. And so I'm not comfortable with that yet, but I'm getting there. Going back to storytelling, one more quick thing. The best experience that I could ever have that I will always remember, and I take this with me, is I was working for the Indiana Pacers. I was in the stadium. And if you know how the field house is set up, it's kind of like in a circle where the suites are. So I'm walking down this hall, and there's a group of young brown girls, Black and brown girls. They probably were around 10 years old or less, with their chaperones. And here I am. I have on my business suit, I'm fly, I'm walking down the hall, I'm strutting. And all of a sudden I hear these little girls saying, is that Michelle Obama? Is that Michelle Obama? And first of all, I'm like, where? Which? Like I was get starstruck myself. And then they were looking at me, and I was like, whoa. And it was in that moment that one, I was flattered because I was like, yes, I want
Yeah.
to be Michelle Obama. But two, I felt a little sad
Mm.
because I was like, if that's the only representation of a powerful Black woman that they know is Michelle Obama, then that kind of makes me sad.
Yeah.
And then I would go to certain events, and people in the community there in Indiana would always say to me, oh, are you one of the cheerleaders? They would never say, oh, are you an executive? Or, oh, are you, whatever. And so I'm still not there with getting that type of accolade or following or whatever. But if it's received and it's being used in a positive way that's making people inspired and motivated, then I'll take it.
Man. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, there's a dichotomy of what you just said there, right? Too. I mean, there's two sides of it, and said it's one way flattering, but as you alluded to, we need more recognizable figures. Yeah, I mean that our folks, or especially our youth, can kind of relate to. So that leads us into a time for take a quick break. We're chatting with Tatiana Holifield from SiriusXM Pandora. We'll be right back.
Bonafide.
And we're back with my guest, Tatiana Holifield. Make sure you're following her on Twitter at Tatiana in Media. Remember, she is the VP out here doing big things over at SiriusXM and Pandora. I didn't even know when they merged, by the way. I think I have SiriusXM, and I was like, what's going on here with this Pandora situation? So that's nice. A little 2-for-1 there. That's nice.
Yeah, actually, we have Stitcher in our family of brands as well, the podcast network too. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen of people just knowing more about SiriusXM and Pandora. So I hope to educate more people.
Well, we're gonna be talking offline. This is a podcast. I need that. I need that link with Stitcher. What's good? And I know SiriusXM has podcasts now and things of that nature as well too. So lots of building and growing. But we're gonna get to that. So which job or experience do you feel like has grown you the most? So you touched on some really great things and some great promotions and opportunities that you had, but which one of those places or entities have you felt like, hey, this is where I gained the most amount of experience and really kind of put you in the position to be as successful as you are?
Hands down, it was my time working at BET under Viacom. The reason for that is one, the amount of content that we had. I was a part of a team that was managing over 300 social media accounts, which is huge. Just imagine trying to maintain your personal and then to, manage that many. Now, granted, they weren't all active at the same time, but my team started as 3 people. We ended up as 10, but just the workload was unbelievable. Also, just the leadership was very different. Having a primarily Black leadership team was a different experience for me. And then just being under the Viacom umbrella and all the possibilities of marketing that company has was just such a great eye opener to learning about the industry, networking within the industry, and just really learning how to make your way. And so I think that's probably the job that I've learned the most from.
No, that's amazing. I kind of want to maybe go a little bit off script because you just touched on something that, again, in my own professional life, I kind of reflect on a lot of different things. And would you say that it's important to get that diversification of experience? So like whatever it is, like I've worked in a predominantly Black company, I've worked in a predominantly white company, and I've worked in what is quote unquote a diverse company, if you will, where like it's a nice mixture of kind of all things, if you will. Do you think that's an important aspect, or is it just like you kind of get in where you fit in, depending on where the jobs are at?
It's a good question. I've discussed this with myself quite a few times throughout my career journey. I mean, my advice to anyone in this industry is do what is best for you. However, for me and my career path, I have been able to work at various companies that have been Black owned, Black operated, non-Black owned, non-Black operated, you name it. And as I continue on my career journey, I personally have made the decision that I want to continue to diversify the companies that I work for, because I don't want to be the only one there.
Thank you.
There are some people who feel that they want to be the only in this space, the only Black, the only Latino, the only Indian, the only Asian, whatever it is. And they're okay being that token one, and that's just it. And I'm sorry, but that's not me. I want to get into these spaces and bring others with me. And so I found that I would rather work for a company that is not diverse and bring my inclusive thinking and business practices to that company, rather than working for a company maybe that is primarily Black or primarily, non-diverse, whatever, and then trying to work it that way.
No, I mean, I think that's an excellent, that's a soundbite for me as well, too. Again, even in my own thinking, you're working at obviously at a macro level in terms of the large scale companies. But, even in my own life, I always look like, all right, how can we diversify our staff? How can we bring in more people who are going to have different perspectives than my own or than the people that we currently have here, and then challenge appropriately. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to, that tokenism, if you will, has been, to me, it's outdated. So, you know what I mean? And you just, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just really quickly, especially working in social media, I found that we have to be reflective of the audiences that we're serving. And so if I'm working on a team that's all one color, then that's not reflective of the audience. And then our perceptions, people's voices aren't being heard. So that's why also it's important to me.
Nice. What is your favorite thing about the industry now and like some of the trends that you see kind of coming?
The favorite thing for me is that the pandemic flipped everything on its head and has forced people to evolve in ways that they never would have thought they would have evolved. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, everyone now is being pushed to constant change. And I think that's what's so fascinating about the industry right now, is that the behaviors or the way people operate works now, but it's not going to work a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And so people who are successful in business right now are people who are constantly evolving and willing to learn and grow. And people who are being stagnant or, just continuing to do things status quo or the way they've always done it are the ones that aren't making the biggest impact.
I think that's extremely, extremely well said. Do you have any thoughts or insight into how, I don't know, Web3 and, NFTs and all those things can even play into like what you're doing kind of on the social media side, or that's something that you are looking to maybe implement even to kind of some of your own strategies?
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it is if there are new technologies or new platforms or new spaces, virtual, physical, you name it, that people are building communities, then that's where I need to be. So from a content perspective and as the vice president of digital and audience engagement for Sirius XM and Pandora, I'm thinking about how do I continue to tap into these audiences and communities of people in unique ways? And so if there's an audio room happening in the metaverse, I need to be a part of the metaverse. If there is a Web3 or some system that's allowing consumers to get their content faster or whatever the case may be, I need to be there. Or if people are monetizing on assets because it's an NFT or whatever, I need to be thinking about that. So I definitely stay on the pulse and try to consume and educate myself as much as possible around these areas, but also knowing that when you work for a large brand like this, there has to be proven metrics around the success in order to justify your spends. So it's a little bit of like waiting and testing and learning and seeing before I jump fully into it. But I would love to do some really unique and clever things in this new virtual space.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that, if it's there to be found, you absolutely are going to find it and make it shine and make it amazing for the company that you're working for. A couple more before I let you get out of here. And thank you so much for being so gracious with your time, Tatiana. When all is said and done, I mean, I know you just kind of got here to Sirius XM and Pandora, but kind of like there, like, what do you see the vision for that entity specifically, and how that one can particularly grow? Like, what do you want to say? Hey, when I'm done here, this is where we're at now.
Yeah. So I think when I came on board, I've been now with Sirius XM and Pandora 3 months, so still fairly new in my role. Previously, I was at Hulu, and the biggest factor for me wanting to come over into this new role was that I could take a legacy brand um, and really make it pop and really take it to the next level. And to be honest, majority of the roles that I've had have been in that same vein. Like I've worked for some really reputable brands that have needed a push to get to that next level, or like a push in their evolution and their strategy of marketing. And so what I'm most excited about is SiriusXM and Pandora has a lot of brand building to do to compete right now with the movement in the audio space. And I'm excited to like be a part of the team that's going to revitalize it. That's going to like do some unique out of the box things. That's going to like bring in this new generation of subscribers to our company. And I'm very excited to have a boss who is an amazing visionary, Kimberly Wilson, and a CMO. And I just have to say it. I don't have to say it, but she's a Black woman.
There we go.
Um,
That's how you connect, by the way. So
yeah.
I'm going to do that immediately.
Okay, yep, for sure. And then I have an amazing CMO, Denise Cargos, who truly believes in social and brand building. And then we have a female CEO, Jennifer Witz. And so, like, we have a powerhouse team now who is ready to take it to the next level. And mark my words, this time next year, Sirius XM and Pandora is going to be even more of a household name than it is to this day.
Oh, talk your things, then.
I'm
Talk the
gonna
things.
pop the collar just a little bit.
Well, I can't wait. I'm currently a subscriber. I listen to SiriusXM a lot, especially the NBA stuff as well. I have a couple of friends who do some hosting on that network on that side as well too. But again, even the brand, I listen to all the different channels music wise and some audio stuff as well too. So I'm excited. They are very, very lucky to have you. Last one, Tatiana. Listen, when I met you, a little bit behind the scenes, if you will, met you virtually or whatever like that, it was you worked with the Pacers at the time. So I think that's how our paths maybe even crossed, digitally, if you will, too, because of all the basketball stuff that I'm familiar with and doing, if you will. But again, like you said, since then, Hulu, now Sirius XM Pandora. That's a lot of moving around. How do you balance it? You know what I mean? Family wise, or things like that too. Like it's a lot. You know what I mean? And kind of moving around from all these high level jobs and distress, because these aren't 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, get out and go home and chill. It's not that. Just how does Tatiana relax and make sure everything stays cool and calm?
It's a work in progress in terms of me balancing. I will say that it's not easy. I've learned to get better. I'm still not there yet. Going back to my statement around BET being a place that really challenged me and allowed me to learn, managing 300 social media accounts and the breadth of work that came with that was very overwhelming. So much to a point where, especially working in social media, which is an always on medium, I burnt out. And so I like lost my edges. And listen, if you're a Black woman, you know about your edges. You got to keep your edges. But my face was breaking out, everything. And I wasn't taking lunch breaks. I wasn't doing all the things that I need to do for my own mental health. And so now I have learned from that experience, and I am very much, and my team knows this, I'm an advocate of taking those breaks and those mental health and those pauses to be able to reset and recharge. And so for me, I balance it all. One, I live by my calendar. Two, I don't apologize for going off the grid when I need to go off the grid. Like when I have reached mental capacity in that day,
Yeah.
so be it. Like I'm okay with that. Um, and then I also try to balance my work and my personal. And I'm thankful that I work from home. Therefore, I can work from the beach. I can work from my office. I can go into the office. Like I take those times to make sure that I'm still giving back to my husband so I can be a wife, my fur baby, my friends, my family, and all the other obligations that I have in my life. And it's a balancing act that we all struggle through. But I find that when you have a great tribe and circle around you that keeps you uplifted and motivated, you can balance it.
Oh man, I absolutely love it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation here today, Tatiana. I think what you've given to our fans and listeners here on Dope Interviews is invaluable, and that's why I like talking to folks like yourself and people who just are entrenched and really are just trying to do good work. Nothing pretentious. Yes, you have a lengthy resume, but still humble, still grounded. You know what I mean? And willing to help out others and even small outlets and small people like myself as we're trying to come up here and make it to where you all are at as well too. So
not small at all. Listen, not at all. We gonna talk Stitcher, and then we gonna make it even bigger.
bless. I'm 1000% grateful. Well, that, as they say, is all the time we have for today on Dope Interviews. I want to thank my great guest, Tatiana Holifield, for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to SiriusXM Pandora. We even throw out, if you don't have a Hulu subscription, you should work there too. They got some great shows as well too. So, keep supporting, kind of the old fam. Of course, support BET and the whole nine. As always, support Dope Interviews, Dope_interviews on Twitter. Don't forget Tatiana on Twitter as well at Tatiana in Media. Again, I want to thank you. I'm Warren Shaw, and this has been another Dope Interview, and we're out.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on a quiz. Mojo, flow, and viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic, and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J, and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation. Understand me?